All right, welcome back, everyone. In this lecture, we're going to go ahead and talk about lists. Now, lists are very similar to strings as far as they are iterable objects, right? They are a series of instances collected together. Now, there is one key difference between strings and lists. Lists are actually mutable objects, and they can contain not only characters, they can also contain Boolean values, they can contain integers, they can contain dictionaries, and even other nested lists inside of them. So lists are very important. You're going to see them in almost all functionalities in regarding Python. Same thing with dictionaries. They're both really important data structures. So it's important that we get familiar with them and know how to utilize some of their very basic functions. So let's go ahead and enter our shell here. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit just so we could view it better. And I'm going to change directory into 2-data types. Here I'm going to utilize Python 3 to execute my script of 2.3. All right, so there we can see our first print statement that's showing us apple, banana, and cherry, just from what's happening here inside of our list. Again, I could also have integers and I could have Boolean values. So now if I were to execute this list, or excuse me, this script, it would still print out our list onto the terminal with the Boolean values being included. Well, I'm going to go ahead and remove these two values. You can notice that each individual value inside of the list is separated by a comma. All right. Now, let's start talking about some of the very common functionalities when it comes to lists. So accessing the first element on the list. It's pretty much the same as a string, right? We could say fruits, which is the name of our list, and we call index 0. And we can see that that would return apple as our first element. Now, if it's the same thing as a string, then we could also assume that -1 would return the very last element on the string. All right, so just like a string, we could go counting from left to right would be starting at 0, 1, 2, and counting from right to left would be -1, -2, and -3. Fantastic. All right. Now, if we were to take a look at our next method here, we have the ability to add something into our list. Now, here we're highlighting the difference between strings and lists in the fact that lists are mutable, right? If I were to try to add a new series of characters into a string, I would have to create a new copy of that string and use variable reassignment to save that string. Well, in this case, in a list, I don't have to do that at all. I could just call the already established variable and utilize the append method. Now, this is a method, so we're going to use it as if we were calling a function. And within these parentheses, we would pass in the argument of what we would like to append into our list. Notice I'm not using variable reassignment. I'm not assigning a new value to the variable of fruits. I'm simply grabbing the already existing list and mutating it by adding a new value. Well, let's go ahead and execute our script here. And now we can see that the list changes. We have our original list up above. And once our script gets to line 33 in execution, we can see that we have apple, banana, cherry, and now the newly added value of orange. All right, there's a couple of other methods that we can utilize within lists to be able to insert new values. And here you can see there's the insert method. This is an exercise, so we're going to go ahead and leave it for you guys to get some practical application. We're going to move into removing an element. Now, for removing an element, there's a couple of ways to do it. There is the pop method and the remove method. Now, we're going to utilize remove in this case. And what remove does is it finds the first instance of a value and removes it from the list. So now we're going to go ahead and again, we don't have to utilize variable reassignment. We could just mutate the already existing list by utilizing the remove method and then passing in banana. All right, we want to remove banana from our list. Let me clear out my terminal and then execute my script. Here we have the updated list when we added orange by utilizing the append method. And here we have another updated version of the list where we no longer have banana because we utilize the remove method to remove it from the list. All right, there is a key difference between remove and pop. Pop will actually return the said value, which you can store in a separate variable. Remove will not. All right, next we have list slicing. Again, this is very similar to strings. We can slice our fruits. Here we want to see the items between 1 to 2. So if we want to see the items between 1 to 2, well, we would call our original list. And in this case, I am making a copy. I am not mutating the list. And I want to see the items from index 1 to 2. Well, I remember from the previous lecture that the first argument is inclusive, meaning it will be represented within the slice. And the second argument is exclusive, meaning that if I were to put 2 here, it would come up short. Instead, I would want 3. And now when I go to print, we can see that index 1 and 2 are being represented in my sliced fruit. Great. Now, if we were trying to find some sort of information, such as the length of our fruit, well, we can simply just say, hey, what is the length, or len, of fruits? Just like a string. And now when we execute our script, we can see that the length of fruits is 3 from up above. Now, it's not part of our script here, but what if we were trying to check if something was within the list? Well, just like before, when we were working with strings, all I had to do was the in operator. So I could print, I want to know if apple is in fruits. And that will either evaluate to true or false. In this case, apple is actually within the list, so it returns true. And that is it for list. There is a lot of other methods that you can utilize with list. Again, there will be at the link at the bottom of the script for you to check it out and get some more practical application. Thank you so much, everyone, and I'll see you again shortly.